Morning! Hi, kids!
You're the sweetest boy in Fairville.
Morning, Pee-wee.
Morning, Pee-wee!
Don't you ever wonder what life is like outside Fairville?
Nope. You know I don't want to go anywhere or try anything new. Bye. French toast is up. Cool. What can I get you?
Milkshake, please.
Flavor?
Let's say chocolate.
3, 2, 1.
Chocolate.
Wow.
Thanks. You ever been in a fight?
No.
Broken a rule?
No.
You ever had two women fight over you?
Have I? No.
I think I know why you and I met. You're gonna leave Fairville. You're gonna take a holiday. You got a choice to make. Stick around here or live a little.
Bingo! My very first holiday is off to a perfect start! The Jackers, where you headed?
Drive, pipsqueak.
Come on, let me go. Where are we?
The woods.
New York City.
Our village.
A snake farm.
Oh, you coming with us. This your lucky day.
Where should I sit? Ow!
Like to say a few words, Pee-wee?
Encyclopedia? Pimple? And, hairball. LATTIHTBD. Look at the time. I have to be going.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Paul, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
I've got to be honest, I loved Pee-wee growing up. Anytime there was Pee-wee to watch, I would watch it. And when this movie aired on Netflix, or came out on Netflix last weekend, I believe, maybe the weekend before.
Last weekend.
The first night, I had to watch it, and it was a delight. I told you, ear-to-ear grinning from minute one to the last minute. It is so much fun to watch. I'm curious, this has been in the process since what, 2009, 2010, this movie?
Yeah, at least. Yeah, a while.
And what was the process like developing this? I had heard in an interview that you had a bunch of scripts already ready for Pee-wee, but that Judd Apatow, who came on as a producer, didn't want to make those particular scripts?
Yeah, Judd wanted to make a road picture that was similar in tone and feel to Big Adventure, so that's what we did.
And how do you go about casting or having collaborators? Because you've had different collaborators on essentially all of the movies.
Mm-hmm. Writing is so solitary and lonely. And particularly comedy, I just rather have someone else there. So it's always simpler for me to have someone to bounce things off of, to hear someone's idea and incorporate that or use that idea or change that idea. And so I've always written, I think I've only written one thing by myself. Everything else I've written with one or two people. And this one, Judd said at the very first meeting, he said, I've got just the perfect person. He actually just told me and the audience at South by Southwest in Austin last week that the collaborator that he put me with, Paul Rust, was so enthusiastic and so excited about writing a Pee-wee movie and was such a Pee-wee fan that he had a lot to do with Judd. He sort of pushed Judd over the edge to make the movie. So,
wow.
And we become very close friends, me and Paul Rust. He has a cameo in the movie, and
in the diner that you work in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just an incredible experience, really fun. And we had an amazing luxury in that we got to write the movie over 5 years because no one wanted to make the movie. But that turned out to be a great situation for us. And we had an additional amazing opportunity. Every single weekend we were in production on the film. We were actually shooting the film. We were able to meet on the weekend and look at the next week's schedule and rewrite just those scenes. And in almost every case, some of my favorite stuff in the movie is out of those sessions that were written just like days before we shot it.
Why do you think that is? I'm always curious about this when it comes to comedy, because as a comedy writer, you obviously were happy with what you initially wrote and you were laughing when you were writing it on the page the first time. Why do you think it is that the weekend before you felt the need to rewrite it, and that it might have even been better to have rewrote it then? Do you think it's the mood that it just changes per mood?
We didn't necessarily feel like we had to rewrite it. We just felt like, why not rewrite it? Let's just look at it and see last minute anything. It had been kind of set for a month or two or three before we went into production, and it's just an additional thing. We just decided, let's just look it over and see. In every case, we would be, oh my God, what about this? What about that? So.
And how do you work with, you've had different directors per movie, how do you work with directors? Because it is essentially, you're the co-writer, you're the producer, it's your project. I'm sure you have a clear idea as to how you want each scene to look, or how you want Pee-wee to come across and the scenes to come across. So are you sort of at the monitor with the director as well, or have you conveyed your vision and then you let them go ahead?
Both. I mean, I try as much as my OCD and personality allows me to let go and give up control. So wherever there was something that I didn't feel super strongly about, I would defer to the director, John Lee, an amazing. I'm not bragging about this, but I'm usually not the person who's like, I love the director. Way after, a year after we finished the movie.
For those of you that know, John Lee did Wonder Shows in, Delocated, and episodes of Broad City, as well as Pee-wee's Big Holiday.
The Harchie Holler, Patton Oswalt Show. Yeah, he's done a lot of amazing television work. And this is his feature film debut. And
what a debut
I told
it
you
is.
this backstage. I mean, he's just so cool and collected. Like he's directed 50 movies. It was really amazing person to work with. And I basically, I wouldn't want to be in that person's shoes because, for what you said. It's kind of my movie, and we joked about this. If the movie comes out great, I get credit. If it comes out terrible, it's his fault. So I mean, that's really kind of true, and it's not a great situation to be in. So I'm trying to give him as much credit as possible because I think the movie came out really well. And I mean, he's a rock star director. I think he's going to go on to amazingly great things.
How could you say, if at all, Pee-wee has changed over the years since the first time you sort of started doing him? I know initially when he was on the Groundling stage, he was a little more R-rated maybe, or not necessarily R-rated, but I think he was more of like an adult comedy kind of guy. And then you did him on Letterman and you did it in some other places. And he gradually grew into this thing that was, I think, more of a, some would say, a man-child. Is that how you would define him? And has he kind of stayed that since then?
I mean, I've heard that before. I never see that really. I just feel like it developed along the lines of it just sort of got a little more refined or processed, or I don't know. I mean, it seemed, I feel like what people respond to from a long time ago about it is sometimes the snarkiness of the character. And I feel like that's still there. And I think it was just sort of like the setting for what I'm doing it in, you know? I mean, when I first started out, I was doing it in a comedy club at night where kids weren't allowed, and it never really, it wasn't a goal to try to figure out like, what would I chop out of this, or what would I soften, or what would I change in order for kids to be involved in it. But that changed very, very quickly, almost as soon as I had a full-length venue, like when I was doing the Pee Wee Herman show at the Groundlings and later at the Roxy Theater in Los Angeles. We did matinees for kids, and so it was pretty easy to go, oh, well, this is okay for kids.
When you went into doing this, When you went into doing this movie and when you going into doing Big Holiday, and Judd says that he wants a road movie similar in tone to Pee-wee's Big Adventure, which is a classic at this point. It's really just a phenomenal film. Tim Burton's first movie. It's so much talent in one piece of cinema there. When you go into making this movie, did you fear of repeating yourself? Did you know what you wanted to do with Pee-wee within that framework?
I don't know. I feel like I'm a little fearless on that level, and that or maybe I'm stupid. I just don't think about it that much. You know, I feel like we definitely didn't want to copy Big Adventure. I didn't want people to say, "Wow, this is really note for note Big Adventure." But other than it being a road picture, and I mean, there are definite nods to Big Adventure, but I think it's a really different film in a lot of ways. You know, a lot's changed in 30 years, and it just seems like, I just realized no one in this audience is everyone's under 30. Yeah, good for you guys. I don't know. I think I realize I'm probably lying a little bit. Like, I think we thought about it more than I'm letting on, but you know, it was just a quick kind of gut feeling, like, "Ooh, no, too close," or "No, that's," right. Or "That's the perfect." That evokes it, but it's a nod to it, but not really anything too close. So
there's so much going on with Pee-wee that over the course of I want to say Pee-wee's career, people have analyzed and overanalyzed, but you operate mainly, I think, as you said, from your gut. It's about what's funny for you. It's about what is it funny to have Pee-wee do? What situations are funny for this particular character, right? And it's not really about I mean, you're not sort of trying to touch on anything grander than that at all.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I wouldn't let that on if I was. But I also think, you know, this is dumb to say, but comedy is so pure in one respect, in many respects, but in one big respect, in that it's funny or it's not funny. I mean, you either are looking out at a crowd, like I'm looking right now, where everyone's very serious, or people are laughing. You know, I mean, it's one or the other. So it's almost the same kind of purity kids have, where they're just uncensored and they will tell you something they're not supposed to say or that you're not supposed to hear. And comedy is really like that. You do something and people think it's funny or don't think it's funny. For me, I have moments in every single thing I've ever done that are just absolutely, I'm the only person that think it's funny. And I get some kind of supercharge out of that and energy. On the stage on Broadway, there's a couple of points in my Broadway show where no one ever laughed at it. I knew no one would ever laugh at it. And when I would do that line and there would be crickets out there, it would give me such energy. I would get so excited by it for some warped reason. I can't really.
Well, there's a bit in the movie like that I think everybody does laugh at, but the joke is that it's so long, and that I was talking about this backstage. I love it so much, and that is the balloon bit, which I don't know if anybody has seen the movie out here. You should. You make noises with the balloon in one uncut shot for about 2.5 minutes while nobody else talks.
You'd think I would know how long that is, but I don't.
The balloon is this big, and it goes down to being completely flat. And it is so funny because there is such a daringness to doing that joke for as long as you do it.
It's sort of cheating in a little bit.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so.
Why is that?
Well, I mean, that's something that you I don't know what the right word. You have to be like a pill. You have to be somebody who's like, I hate everything, in order to not like at least be amused by that slightly.
And what about the casting of Joe Manganiello in this film? I mean, he's pretty perfect in this role. How did he come up?
I met Joe about 6 years ago at a party, an after Emmy party that was put on by HBO. And he was a big HBO star. I was just there because I was at the Emmys. And I looked way across the room. I mean, really far, huge party, huge big tent. And I looked way across the room and I saw this guy kind of looking at me, and he started walking toward me and I started walking toward him. And we met halfway in the middle of the party, and he said to me, I'm like a huge Pee Wee freak. I love Pee Wee Herman, and I
Joe Manganiello.
I was like, wow. I mean, when he said I'm a big fan, I was like, yeah. I mean, he's 6'5", was wearing a tuxedo, and he was like showering me with praise. So I mean, what's not to like there? You know, it was like a fantastic moment, and. We exchanged information, and a few days later he called and asked me if I wanted to go to the Tim Burton retrospective at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art. I missed it here in New York, and I missed it in Los Angeles, the opening. And I felt like I shouldn't go to that after, to not be at the opening, to just have somebody see me standing looking at the Pee Wee Herman stuff in the show, I thought would be kind of cheesy. So
they could assume that you go every day, maybe every other day.
Or
that
I
you're just
work
sort of
there. I'm part of the
navel-gazing
thing or
consistently.
something like. So I
Standing next to him, being like, "It's me right there.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm that guy."
But I somehow intuitively knew going with Joe would be the perfect person to go with, and he was. I was literally standing right next to the Pee Wee Herman, Pee Wee's Big Adventure stuff in that show, and people were pulling me away, pushing me out of the way to get to Joe, to be like, Joe, oh my God, Joe. And
Really?
so he's the perfect person for me to go anywhere with, and now that he's married, the two of them together, you could be the Pope. I mean, you could be anyone, and you'd be invisible.
So he must have died when you told him that you had a part for him in the movie. When you started writing this part for him,
He was very excited. Yes.
I mean, that's incredible. I would imagine that a lot of the people that you have in this movie who got to show up on set were very excited to be in a new Pee Wee movie. It's hard to have grown up in the '80s and not be a Pee Wee fan.
There were amazing moments all the way through. There were a lot of people who it was their first movie. So it was more about like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm in a movie kind of thing. But one of the grips, one of the technicians on the movie on the second day pulled me aside and said something to me I will never forget. I wish I recorded it, but I kind of made a new groove in my brain about it. He said to me, I met you about a month ago on the location scout in the backyard. In a movie, we go on location, and wherever you're going to be, you go ahead of time with the whole crew. You take your director and the lighting people and the prop, all the different departments come along on a location shoot, and you look at the location, and everyone asks questions, and the director says stuff, and you sort of figure out a lot of logistical information before you get there, and you know what you're doing ahead of time. And I met everybody, the whole crew at that time, but I wasn't in my Pee Wee stuff. And this guy pulled me aside on the second day, and he said, I met you a month ago at the location scout, and he said, I was a huge fan. It was really exciting to meet you and stuff. He said, but I want to tell you something, man. And he almost started crying, and I'm almost going to start to cry, like, telling you this. It's so corny, but he said to me, like, I don't know if you have any idea, like, who you're working with here. He said, but you have an entire crew of people who grew up on your show. Like, I've never been involved in a project like this where every single person's freaking out. They're working with you. And I didn't have any idea of that. I really didn't see that, so that was an incredible thing. And I can't say the word that he used because it's not a.
You're allowed to here if you want.
Well, I don't want to have to bleep anything really, and these kids haven't heard some of this stuff, I'm sure. Okay, I pushed your button there. He said, I almost lost my. He said, like, everyone here is freaking out. You can't believe it, and it was so heartfelt. And so emotional, and so like right here in my face. It was just an amazing. And the second he said it, I realized that it was like that. And so we just had this incredible love fest making the movie, where every day we're at a different location because of the nature of a road picture. You have a different set of actors and a different scene every day or every 2 days. We're in a completely different place. And so it's just incredible to come to work,
I bet you're showing up to this new crew of actors every day dressed as Pee Wee, and every day you get a new crew of actors. Kind of, you walk on set and they're just going, like just kind
Yeah,
of blown
it wasn't.
away.
Yeah, the actors are one thing, but the crew. I mean, the crew becomes your family really during the 6, 8, 10 weeks. This was a 7-week shoot, and the kind of hours you keep, and just the closeness of it all is.
What kind of, how are you on set when you're doing Pee-wee for 7 weeks? Are you, I mean, I don't want to say method because it sounds pretentious, but I could imagine it could be difficult to sort of come in and out of this character and the big things that you have to do. Or are you in and out?
Yeah, no, I guess this is sort of the proof that I'm a lot like Pee-wee. I just turn it on and turn it off, and it's. I mean, I don't want it to sound super crass, but it just happens. I don't really think about it that much. It's definitely not very method.
In terms of you being, as you said, a lot like Pee-wee, was there ever a time where you wanted to develop other characters outside of Pee-wee, or was there a moment where you realized that Pee-wee might be kind of like your magnum opus in terms of characters that you would?
I don't have that much range, really. I think.
That is not true. You're a phenomenal actor.
Well, that was
Great
a setup
movies
for
that
that
you've been in.
comment.
You can give me the money later for that one.
No, I mean, I had a lot of characters at the time Pee Wee Herman came out, I had probably 15 other characters that were pretty fleshed out, and I was doing those at the comedy improv group, the Groundlings, that I belonged to. And Pee Wee Herman came out one night, and boom. I mean, it was just such a different reaction that I started to toy with the idea of dropping all the rest of the work I was doing and just focusing on that. I came out of the Walt Disney Art School, Cal Arts, which was, at that time, a lot of art was about performance work and conceptual art. And so I felt in a certain way like I stumbled on something conceptual that was so conceptual, no one knew it was conceptual. Just I was the only person who knew. And I spent a lot of time and energy early on in my career, and then I perpetuated it for many, many years through Big Adventure, for sure, and through the Kid Show, that Pee-wee was a real person. And I would go places, even in Hollywood, and executives and movie companies would be like, great to meet you, Pee-wee, and I mean, just never really
You would take
focused.
meetings as Pee-wee?
Not really, no. But I mean, I looked the same, so people would just call me Pee-wee and act like I was that character, and that's I thought it worked better like that. I liked that people didn't know me and didn't know there was an actor behind it.
When you took a break from doing Pee-wee?
Oh, but let me just say one other thing.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
About the power of it. I was toying with the idea, like, oh, this is, people are reacting way differently to this character, and there's something here. And then shortly after that, I put that suit on and answered a cattle call advertisement in the casting paper for actors for contestants for the dating game. And I put on my Pee-wee suit and I went to the dating game audition, sat down at a desk, and I could tell the second I walked in, all the people that worked there were trying to mask, like, oh my God, like, freak, this guy's a freak. I mean, like, I could just tell that I was going to be on the show immediately. I was the only person like that in the whole room. Everyone was like a normal contestant on the dating game but me. And I put really weird answers on my form, like, I like to clean my room and stuff like that. And I got home, literally, by the time I got home, there was a call like, be on the dating game. So that was
Didn't you win?
I won once. I was on 3 times, and I won once. And we're now married.
Wait, I want to know, did Pee-wee actually, was there a date after the dating game?
No, by the time we got to the date, she couldn't do it, then I couldn't do it, then neither of us could do it, then when we both could do it, it was somehow, I don't know.
Would you have gone on the date as Pee-wee?
I can't remember what I was thinking back then. Probably not, but you went with a chaperone and they took pictures and stuff during it, so I probably would have had to.
Right. I think we have to turn over to audience questions for a minute or two, right here.
Hey, Paul, how are you?
Hey.
Before I get to my question, I just wanted to say I worked with you on a pilot a couple of months ago, And by far, you were the nicest actor that I ever had the pleasure of working with, as well as everybody that worked on production as well.
Oh, thank you.
Your professionalism is above and beyond.
That was
It's
just a
very
fluky
encouraging.
day. I'm never like that usually.
But my question is, why do you think the Pee Wee character still resonates with people all these years later?
Interesting question that I'm not going to answer. Honestly, this sounds bogus and dumb, but it's the truth. I feel like that's other people's thing. Like I don't like to think like that about it because it sort of ruins it for me a little bit. It just makes it into something that I feel like my head would become gigantic and I'd turn into a jerk if I knew all that stuff. So, too late. No. I just really, honestly, I never think about stuff like that. I get asked that kind of stuff sometimes as I get older and older and older. But I never think about it. But I'm flattered you're asking me that question. But I don't know. I have no idea, and I feel like I would jinx everything for myself if I did ask myself that or answered that.
Did you ever read any of the kind of like cultural analysis that came out about Pee Wee in the 80s and like in the 90s?
I did. I read
People
some of
really
it, yeah.
Fascinated about what he could symbolize in regards to
Oh
the
my
Reagan
God,
era
it's
and
so
everything?
out there. Some of it is really crazy. It goes way. There's an episode in the second season of the show when we moved from New York to Los Angeles, and we were forced to change the set. And so the first episode, there's house cleaning and remodeling and stuff. And at a certain point, Miss Yvonne puts on like a raincoat or it might have even been a rainy day episode, but I think it was this episode where we're painting and cleaning and she put something on to cover her dress, but it's a clear plastic dress made to go exactly, it fits exactly over what she's wearing. I feel like I'm gonna get electrocuted here with this. You can't buy that kind of publicity though, right?
That would be amazing.
Live. All right, I'll do it. No. And people wrote that it was a safe sex reference, and just the craziest stuff that people wrote that we didn't have any idea of. And then sometimes people touch on stuff that I didn't think about at all, and I hear it and I go, oh, that's probably true. But I just read it and spend that amount of time on it, and then. Well,
because there's something so in the world of Pee-wee's Playhouse in particular, and even maybe Big Adventure, there's something about the world that is so, it resonates in a sort of 50s nostalgia way, like it's making fun of that or mocking it or sort of showcasing the nostalgia that we have for this post-war time. But at the same time, you're also just doing jokes and doing what's funny to you, and I think so many people thought that you were satirizing something.
I never feel like I'm making fun of anything. Like when the Pee Wee Herman show came out, the stage show, people said it was we were mocking kid shows and that it was this and that. And I always thought it was like a full-on homage to all that stuff. So for me, it's always coming from like love and respect, and it's something I am obsessed with or think is fantastic. So I don't know why people add that other thing to it, but
it's fun to add
free
it
country.
Sometimes. Yeah. Next question.
How's it going? You touched upon this a little earlier about like the range of roles that you've done. So, it goes without saying your role as Pee-wee is a little different from your role as Derek and Blow. So how do you approach each role differently, and is there one type of role that you'd like to play more than another?
No, I think like I probably approach it all the same way as I approach Pee Wee Herman. I don't give it like a whole lot of thought, although if you're a director listening to this right now, that's, I'm just making that up, sir. But no, for me, this is probably really oversimplified, but in so many ways, acting feels like when you're crawling around on your stomach playing soldier in your front lawn when you're like a little kid. If you played that, I don't know what you played. But it's sort of play acting, really. There's lots of technical stuff one can know and experience. I've had years of experience doing that, and I tell people a lot of times that, one of the biggest skills really of being an actor is to be able to play a very intimate, tiny little scene. You're whispering to someone or talking to somebody who's right here, and it's a very, personal kind of thing. And, this far away from you, 3 feet away from you, are 800 people, all doing their job to make the movie. And so one really big skill is to just be able to do that and not have that affect you and be able to concentrate on what's at hand. So for me, I guess I could talk a little slower and make this even longer, this non-response to your question. It really, I just approach everything from how do I find like fun and joy in it, or what's the core of it, or a lot of times I start with like the hair. I go like, what does the guy look like? And then, a writer and a director have a lot to do with shaping stuff. They tell you things that they see in things, and there's no real super answer to it. I mean, there's just lots of different considerations, but I'm finding myself more and more in situations where I think what I bring to something is knowing that I shouldn't do very much, that it's written already, or that between the writing and the wardrobe, you don't have to do very much, that kind of thing. So does that sort of answer it? I mean, thank you. Thanks for asking.
Last question.
Dad?
Hi. You mentioned Groundlings, and I know you worked a lot with the Groundlings crew in the original show and the movie and everything. And for this movie, you had to work with a lot of new blood. And I was wondering if, when making this movie, you felt like you had to tap into what you and your crew originally were working on, or if you found like with all the new people that you were working with, you were able to really go with a new direction for it.
I think it's probably both. I think like we certainly, there were so many moments during the movie I thought of many things out of the past, and then one is sort of forced to, or at least it makes sense to stay in the present and be thinking about the future. So I think I would just try to draw on all of that, and I think it's for me personally, it's good to kind of be open to all that and try to sort of pull from your roots and, think about where you're growing and what's going to happen, to make a bad nature analogy.
I'm curious. I kind of hate to ask this because we just got a new Pee-wee movie, but it's so wonderful and it was such a delight to watch. And you said that Netflix is sort of a big supporter of yours, and they're talking about sort of going global with kind of the Pee-wee brand. Are we going to get more Pee-wee? Do you want to play Pee-wee more if there was another Playhouse? Or if there
people
was another
don't really know. This is the first time this is coming out right here, but we did kind of like what they do on Harry Potter, all those things. I mean, we shot 4 movies at the same time, so there are... I wish we did. That would have been really good.
Did you see like all the blood drain from? I was like, oh my god, here we go.
I know. I almost believed it myself when I said it. But I guess just, I'm waiting for the phone to ring. I mean, my phone is in my pocket. Right now, I'm waiting for it to like vibrate. So.
Could Pee-wee be a character that sort of lives on forever? Like, I mean, in terms maybe if you stop playing him and there's another actor that you feel like could pick up the torch, like Paul Rust, for instance, I feel like who's worked with you could potentially play a version of Pee-wee in the future.
If he were alive, then yeah, but I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, I think that's a possibility. To be honest with you, I thought that would have happened by now. When I was out pitching this movie, I was pitching to everybody like new Pee-wee, and
who do you think would have played Pee-wee when you were pitching it? Who
I don't know. We kept talking
about
about Michael Cena like a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Wait.
Michael
Cera. Oh.
Wait, is Michael Cena the wrestler?
That's John Cena.
John Cena. Sorry.
I know. I got them confused. They're easy to confuse. I'm so sorry, Michael, that I screwed up your name. I know your name. But you will never be Pee-wee.
There is only one Pee-wee.
Well, I mean, honestly, I'm in the minority that think this, but I really feel like 5 years from now, no more actors. It's all going to be digital. I do. I really do. You know why you don't think that? Because you are old. You're old for this. That's true. That's really true. If you think about it. your kids are going to be looking at work right now and going like, oh, wow, this is so weird. This is like before they figured out real people didn't have to do this. I really think that's going to happen. I mean, we're this close to a digital Pee-wee. You're practically seeing a digital Pee-wee on here already.
Was there a lot of work done to
Oh,
make
there
it
might
look?
have been.
Is that something you're open to talking about, or?
You know what? I was open to talking about it a lot more before the movie was finished, and people kept saying to me, "What's your secret? Oh my God! Like, you never age." And I feel like, okay, right, yeah.
Paul, it's been a delight talking to you. I have to let you go. I love the movie so much. Congratulations.
You're gonna let me run?
What's
I'm
that?
I'm gonna let me run.
It's on Netflix right now, right?
Right this second.
Here we go.
And now.
And now. Paul, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's an honor.
Thank you guys.